This woman is Su Chingy Yang, the most beautiful girl in the East China Sea. She is one of the women who impressed Wu Chen the most in his previous reincarnation life, as she is very different from the inside from her outer appearance. She is also very obedient and easy to control. Wu Chen thinks that since he has a chance to meet her by chance, he thinks to flirt a bit with her. He tries to wave his hand to her, but she immediately closes her windows. This makes Wu Chen even more interested, as Wu Chen texts her saying that when he saw her in person, she was way more beautiful than her appearance on the TV. He had saying, "When will there be a bright moon?" This is a secret code which will make her surprised when she sees the text message, as it contains her secret, and she will definitely take the initiative to ask him out and negotiate. He gets a message thinking it's from her, but he sees that it is from Liir Ruat, as he requests Wu Chen to meet him, for he has something to give to Wu Chen. Sometime later, we see Wu Chen and Ruat standing in front of a lavish apartment. Ruat tells that the house is 600 square feet with ground plus 3 floors and 1 underground floor along with a courtyard all for him. Ruat tells that Wu Chen helped him a lot yesterday, and besides, since his sister is pregnant, she cannot go to live with him in his old house, so he gave him an early wedding present. He asks for his ID card so that he can get the papers done immediately. Wu Chen is a bit startled but doesn't speak anything. The next day morning, the 10th of July, we see a beautiful woman with a bodyguard asking about Missley, as she has an appointment with her at the reception. She is asked for her name by the receptionist and she answers it as Tao. The receptionist checks the records but is unable to find the appointment and thinks it is strange and asks her to wait for a moment as she checks about it. We see Rabing yelling at her employees for not being able to find a spokesperson in the first meeting room. Just like any typical boss, she asks why are they getting paid so much if they cannot even do such a small task. She gets a call from the receptionist, and upon getting to know it's Tao Man Yang, she tells the receptionist to bring the girl to her office. Rabing is shocked as no one from the company invited her and whether Wu Chen invite her. Rabing and Miss Tao meet and have a firm handshake as Rabing apologizes for not being able to inform the receptionist about the meeting. Miss Tao is very chill as she praises her beauty and that she and Wu Chen are really a very good couple. Rabing asks her to have a seat and asks how does she know and meet her husband. Miss Tao tells that they do not each other, but her godfather, Lei Chang, and Wu Chen are both brothers, and her godfather, Mr. Chang, had sent her there. Rabing sweats getting to know about Wu Chen and Mr. Chang being brothers. She is interrupted by Miss Tao to hurry up with the contract signing since she is in a hurry. Liir Ruat apologizes and orders her employee to quickly bring the contract for signing. They have a firm handshake, exchanging greetings for starting off to work together on the project. We see Wu Chen in Rabing's office telling her that since the contract has been signed, she should apologize to him as she has lost the bet. She asks Wu Chen about how he knew and met Lei Chang. Wu Chen tells her that she is asking too many questions and a magician never reveals his tricks. He tells her not to change the subject of their conversation and to come and apologize to him. Rabing takes off her jacket and then removes her brown heels. Tucking her hair back, she says that she is Liir Ruat and gets down on her knees on the floor. She says that she apologizes. Wu Chen is impressed as Liir Ruat is really kneeling down to him to apologize, and so he lends his hand accepting her apology and telling her to get up. She gets a call from Ruat, who tells her that someone is investigating her boyfriend Wu Chen as he just received the news. Liir Ruat asks about the investigators and Ruat tells her that it is the Golden Service Group, the Su family. Rabing asks Wu Chen about why is the Su family investigating him, but Wu Chen tells her not to get involved in the matter as it's none of her business. Rabing questions whether Wu Chen is trying to be mysterious again and whether he is acting like this because he wants her to pay more attention to him, or is it that he has fallen in love with her. Wu Chen is provoked as he enters his Sigma mode, telling her that she is neither the most beautiful woman nor the richest in the region and that she is always arrogant and unfriendly to strangers, as if she looks down upon them. He asks her where she gets that level of confidence to think he would fall in love with her. He was telling about Su Chingy Yang being her woman. Wu Chen tells her that Su Chingy Yang isn't his woman at the moment, but who knows, maybe she will be in a few days. Although Rabing doesn't know Su Chingy Yang personally, she has heard a lot about her affairs as it is not a secret to the public. Her father focused on his business and got married late in life, and so when Su Chingy Yang was born, her father was already old. He raised her in a way that really cultivates nobility with strict family rules and discipline. Even when she goes abroad to study, she has bodyguards arranged for her 24 hours a day just to prevent her from falling in love early. But later when her father became ill, her father got anxious for her to get married and the conditions for arranging a blind date became even more extreme as she cannot marry a man too old or young and the person's assets must not be less than $1 billion. The most important of which was that the person had to marry into the Su family. Rabing knows that the Su family doesn't compromise on their conditions, and since Su Chingy Yang is a well-behaved girl who listens to her family and Wu Chen is a person who would not accept that kind of marriage with such conditions, she tells him that it's impossible for him to catch up with Su Chingy Yang. Wu Chen asks whether she still doesn't believe him and whether she wants to make another bet, to which she agrees immediately. Wu Chen asks whether she really wants to make a bet with him and whether she isn't afraid of losing again, to which Rabing tells that she just wants to have the bet. Wu Chen asks for 3 days and he will make Su Chingy Yang to be his woman who will be with him for the rest of her life. Rabing tells him she will give him 30 days, but Wu Chen is firm on just 3 days, making Rabing tell that if he loses, she wants him to get on his knees to apologize to her. Wu Chen tells that it's okay for him, but what if she loses that bet? Grabbing her by her waist, Rabing asks what he wants and we see Rabing accepting the terms if she loses, making the terms of the bet settled. It's the 11th of July in the Tangsha private club of the northern suburbs of Donghai City. The receptionist asks Wu Chen whether it's Wu Chen's first time there and would he want to familiarize himself with the environment first. Wu Chen replies telling he has an appointment with Miss Yu there. A person approaches asking if he is Mr. Wu, to which he agrees and asks Wu Chen to accompany him as Miss Su has been waiting for him. We see Wu Chen getting off from a golf cart with the person accompanying him. As praises Su Qing for her golf shot which she had been practicing. She asks him about how did he know about the matter which he texted her. Wu Chen tells that it isn't important how he knows about it, but Su Qing asks him to name a price to keep his mouth shut. Wu Chen asks whether she thinks he is blackmailing her as she is offering him money. She tells that not accepting the money will only make it hard for her to trust him. Wu Chen asks since she is so worried that why didn't she bring more bodyguards? She can arrest him and dig a hole to bury him to make him shut up forever. She tells that she is not likely Rabing, so she won't do such things, and since he is Rabing's boyfriend, no one will dare to do that to him. Wu Chen asks her whether she needs something to make her feel reassured, which makes Su Qing clueless as he grabs her by her hands from behind, squeezing her, telling whether she needs evidence, which makes her uncomfortable, requesting Wu Chen to leave her. He tells that he is just teaching her how to play golf and not to think much about it, as now she has the evidence that she can vouch for, hinting to her about him forcing her with playing golf and whether she is still unwilling. She thinks that Wu Chen is Liir Ruat's boyfriend, and if Rabing gets to know that Wu Chen was holding her like that, and would never believe that he was just teaching her how to play golf and would definitely tear Wu Chen into pieces. But then she realizes that the one who should be scared is not her but Wu Chen, and the less she struggles, the more she can grasp his handle to death. Su Qing's bodyguard, seeing Wu Chen so close, think about what is happening to her. Whether she is resisting or accepting Wu Chen's actions, and seems to have no clue regarding the event. Su Qing asks Wu Chen whether he is not afraid of her calling Liir Ruat and telling him about his actions. Wu Chen tells that he is actually scared, but even she must be scared of getting her secrets exposed, so they are even. She asks whether he is deliberately giving her a point to blackmail him back. He tells her not to think around while spanking her and tells her to continue playing golf. He advises her not to turn her hips outwards but to keep them inwards, questioning her about how her coach taught her to play golf. Su Qing is shocked and blushes at what Wu Chen did. Even the guards are shocked as they hurriedly call to notify her mother about her and Wu Chen's action on the golf ground. Wu Chen is seen teaching her golf, telling her he will teach her for one more time. All she has to do is to draw her legs back and then straighten her arms. He spanks her, but yet again making her moan, telling her that her pelvis is tilted forward and she should take it a little bit more to do well. Su Qing goes for the shot, asking about whether her shot was correct or not. Wu Chen praises her and tells her that he won't be able to teach her other techniques for the time being, as it is estimated that her mother has already brought someone to arrest him. We get to know that her bodyguards informed her mom that Wu Chen suddenly hugged her daughter and was also seen chatting and laughing with him. They inform her that Wu Chen also spanked her, but as if he was teaching her how to play golf, but didn't look like that. They tell that he looks young and that Miss Su came today to meet him. Her mother is shocked and furious, at the same time ordering her men to keep a watch on them and not let them escape, as she is coming over right away. The bodyguards say that they would do as she asks. Su Qing asks Wu Chen that if her mother is coming there, then what should they do? Wu Chen tells that they will talk later and will have to escape from there first. He asks whether she wants to escape with him. This makes her question herself about it. He asks her whether she wants to live like this forever, which makes her nervous. He grabs her hand and tells her not to think much about it and just run. The guards try to catch them from fleeing from the golf court, but they both manage to escape in a red car. The guards inform their boss that Su Chingy has escaped with that boy, which makes her mother shocked. Wu Chen asks her whether she is afraid, which she denies. She gets a call from her mother on her phone. Wu Chen advises her to consider being herself for a day, hinting to live a carefree life for a day. Su Chingy is sweating heavily as she has to answer her mom's phone. She gathers the courage and answers the phone and tries to tell that she is with a friend. This makes her mother rage as she tells how come she is with a friend and when did she get to meet a friend. She asks whether she knows about herself and whether that man is good enough for her, that she ran away with a man. Her mother tells her that she really let her down today and to return to her home at that very moment. Su Chingy thanks Wu Chen in her heart to make her feel herself as she yells at her mother over the phone that she is a human being who can breathe and not her puppet. This makes her mother shocked as she cannot believe what Su Chingy said to her. Wu Chen tells Su Chingy that her mother will try to mobilize all the power of the Su family to find them, and she tells that her mother is afraid of losing her reputation and so she won't make a big deal out of it. Isn't she afraid that he can really abduct her and sell her somewhere, and whether she still wants to go around with him? She asks whether it even matters, as no one ever dared to approach her in her life and she always lived under a false light. When she was a kid, people always praised her as the kid who always got first place in her exams and told her that she was different from everyone else around. When she started her own business, she was complimented by people who were in her wealth and not who she was. Her mother always made her live the way she wanted to, making her better day after day. She would never let her eat a second bowl of rice so that she doesn't get fat and say the most beautiful in the whole of East China, and she is all tired of this. Su Chingy tells that maybe running out with him may be the only chance she has, as he really makes her feel comfortable as a person. Wu Chen believes that she made the right choice and that it's better to change sooner than to be sick beyond cure. She asks whether he is Liir Ruat's boyfriend and whether he is afraid that Rabing will find out about it as she unbuckles her seatbelt. The next second we see her grabbing Wu Chen by his face and having a French kiss, all lip-locked. Must be tasty indeed. Wu Chen in a bossy manner asks her what is she doing as he is driving and whether she wants both of them to die, and also why is she kissing and biting him at the same time. Su Chingy tries to speak something, but Wu Chen orders her to sit still at her place. She submissively follows what Wu Chen says and sits still. Su Chingy's hidden attribute is being submissive, which makes her really interesting. Wu Chen remembers the day when in one of his reincarnations on the same day of the millennium, he had got hold of her, the first beautiful girl of the East Sea without any flaws. To satisfy his curiosity about how she became a high-quality human template, she opened her laptop and logged into a form in front of him where he saw multiple comments under her posts with all sorts of creepy comments as he read it throughout the night. Looking at those posts, he realized that the perfect shiny image that has been maintained over the years was actually a lock on her body that weighed her down. That post not only showed the chain and mask on her body but also the textual evidence of her hidden attributes of a jitterbug. Wu Chen never thought that there would be a day when he would need to use this attribute of hers, but he tells her to fasten her seatbelts and sit tight. She asks him where he wants to go, and upon Wu Chen's green signal, she tells him to go to his house. Wu Chen agrees and we see our scene of a view of a tall beautiful building 4 hours later. Something very important has happened and we see Wu Chen and Su Chingy sleeping over each other. Wu Chen gets a call and upon picking up Ruat's call he asks whether the Su family came to his place. Ruat informs that he received a call and it was from Mrs. So, who asked him about the person driving the car and he couldn't do anything but answer it. He asks what's going on, but Wu Chen shrugs it off, saying that it is nothing but a small problem and he will handle with himself, and hangs up the call. Wu Chen immediately gets a call from Liir Ruat. When he picks up the call, she asks whether he offend anyone from the Su family as she was contacted by them. Wu Chen asks if she wants to know about the matter, to which she agrees. Wu Chen tells her to wait a minute and asks Su Chingy to say something. Su Chingy asks him what he wants her to say and Wu Chen tells her to say whatever she wants to say and not worry about Rabing knowing why she is. Rabing asks over the phone saying, "Honey, who are you talking to and whether everything is alright?" Wu Chen tells Rabing to ask about it herself to the girl. Su Chingy asks who the person on the other end of the call is and Liir Ruat tells her it is her. Su tries to show that she recognizes her. Ruat asks as to who is she speaking to and she reveals that she is Su Chingy Yang. Liir Ruat seems furious as she questions her about why is she with Wu Chen and what is her relationship with him. Su Chingy tells that they are just friends discussing work. Ruat knows that she was clearly shouting at him and now she is saying that they are friends and that something is wrong. So, she apologizes to interrupt their work and asks her to return the phone to Wu Chen to talk to him. She asks Wu Chen about his whereabouts and gets to know that he is in the old house in the villa Ruat gave him. She tells Wu Chen to wait for her there and not to leave the house. Wu Chen thinks it will be very interesting when Liir Ruat will arrive. Su Chingy asks him why is he not afraid that Ruat will get to know about their relationship, to which Wu Chen replies that he and Ruat are not in a relationship and it is a secret. She tells that so he is also a fake just like the other three she had. Wu Chen instructs her to keep it secret since even her younger brother doesn't know about it, to which she agrees as she doesn't want to cause trouble for herself. She tells so the reason Wu Chen lied to her and sent her a fake handle was that he wasn't afraid of Liir Ruat. Wu Chen grabs her by the waist asking if she regrets what Wu Chen did. She denies it, saying she doesn't regret it at all. At the same time on the other side, we see Liir Ruat rushing to Wu Chen's house in a white car thinking that it doesn't make sense and she cannot find any reasonable explanation as to why they are together, as Su Chingy is not such a woman. Just like Tao Yaoying signing a contract last time, the core of the issue is Wu Chen and that Wu Chen is really like a god, unfathomable and mysterious. She arrives at his house 40 minutes later and Wu Chen greets her asking her to come inside, but Ruat goes inside in search of something and we get to know that she is searching for Su Chingy, asking about where she is. Wu Chen points out where Su Chingy is and we get to see Su Chingy in an apron calling Wu Chen as honey and asking if Missley has arrived. She greets Liir Ruat telling her it's been a long time since meeting her. Ruat exchanges the greeting thinking about whether she is Su Chingy and whether she is cooking food for Wu Chen. Su Chingy calls Wu Chen as honey, telling him that the soup is almost ready and she will scramble another egg and will be able to eat together in a moment. Liir Ruat is getting jealous as she asks Wu Chen about what's happening and Wu Chen tells her that nothing is happening as Su Chingy is his woman. Ruat is shocked as she questions him about how did she become his woman and when did it happen, and Wu Chen tells her that it happened the same day. She is startled as they became a couple today and asked whether they knew each other before getting no for an answer. She was going to question more to Wu Chen, but Su Chingy calls out to Wu Chen telling him that the meal will soon be ready and to watch the pot as she is going to the bathroom. Su Chingy tells Missley not just stand there and have a seat because the meal will get ready very soon. She shuts the bathroom door and Ruat doesn't understand a thing as she grabs Wu Chen's hand telling him to come with her. But just then, Su Chingy comes out and informs Wu Chen that the laundry is done and that if they don't hang it on the balcony, the bedsheets won't dry. Ruat gets very jealous and sad seeing a perfect Su Chingy become Wu Chen's woman, as she seems just perfect doing all the chores, whether it's the clothes, the food, or helping each other out on other tasks. She feels very sad for herself as she isn't the same as Su Chingy and we can never get to know what's on a woman's mind, tbh. They are all sitting at a table and Su Chingy asks Missley and Wu Chen to start eating. She picks up a piece of steak and gives it to Wu Chen telling him to try it. This makes Ruat jealous as, judging by Su Chingy's posture, she is going to feed Wu Chen, which she feels is an outrageous level of intimacy. Wu Chen praises her telling the food is delicious and she asks Ruat to also eat the food. Ruat thinks that Su Chingy forced herself to lead Wu Chen to eat and she cannot deviate from the correct path and has to take the initiative to attack, so she questions Miss Su as to how long has she been with Wu Chen. She tells Ruat that it wasn't long before she fell in love at first sight with Wu Chen and from then on she knew that Wu Chen was her destiny. Ruat thinks that it is not at all surprising that Su Chingy fell in love with a man, but it is absolutely impossible to fall in love at first sight, especially with such a unique family background, and sense something fishy. Su Chingy asks her that Wu Chen told her that she and Wu Chen are not a real couple, which stuns Liir Ruat. Su Chingy tells her not to worry as she won't say about it and also to keep her secret since her love cannot be known by the outside world yet, and that Missley can keep acting and she wouldn't mind even if they have some intimacy in public. Wu Chen asks Ruat why is she looking at him and they should eat. Su Chingy plays around leaning on Wu Chen's shoulder, indirectly showing Ruat that Wu Chen is her man. Liir Ruat gets agitated as she sees Su Chingy indirectly provoking her. So, she picks up a prawn from the table and tears it into two halves and gives it to Wu Chen telling him to have this prawn. Both, Wu Chen and Su Chingy are stunned by her move and Wu Chen quietly eats the prawn. Wu Chen finishes the food telling it's delicious and that he is full since he ate very fast. Su Chingy says that she is very happy and tells him to take a rest as she cleans up everything and also to accompany Missley and not to neglect their guests. Su Chingy then takes all the utensils from the table to the kitchen to clean up and we see the furious side of Liir Ruat coming out demanding Wu Chen explain what is he doing. She is in a rage as she grabs his hands and drags him to another room with her. Wu Chen pulls her hand moving forward and we see Liir Ruat on top of Wu Chen. She tells Wu Chen to take it easy but Wu Chen tells her that she lost the bet and why is she asking so many questions. He tells her that he should now think about the reward for the bet which makes her angry as well as blush at the same time. Wu Chen tells Rabing that he is very tired as he has been busy for most of the day and his body is aching and can she give him a massage? She asks him if she has to give him a massage then or in his bedroom to which Wu Chen tells her that it isn't comfortable here and they should go to the bedroom. 10 minutes have passed and seeing no one around, Su Chingy calls out for them and looks around for them. She hears a sound when she is searching for them. She sees it coming from a room with a narrow door opening. As she peeks inside, she sees Liir Ruat giving a massage to Wu Chen with Wu Chen being half naked. She is completely shocked seeing Liir Ruat giving a massage to Wu Chen as according to her, how can a woman like Rabing serve a man this way? Wu Chen notices Su Chingy and asks her whether she is finished with the chores and tells her to take a rest as she must be tired as they will be done in a bit. She notices Rabing didn't care about her noticing them in such a way and thinks whether Rabing is also like her and in that case, since both of them are of the same kind, they are allies then. She thinks that Wu Chen is more powerful than she imagined as he even managed to conquer Liir Ruat. We see Su Chingy hurriedly opening her slippers rushing towards their bed and sitting on the bed refers Rabing as her elder sister asking to massage Wu Chen together. We see both of them massaging Wu Chen and Rabing thinks that it is impossible since when Su Chingy saw Wu Chen being massaged by her, not only she was calm but even joined in and massaged Wu Chen with her and called her a sister. She quizzes herself as to what's the matter with Su Chingy or if is she crazy. But it would be impossible as if she had a problem she wouldn't be so perfect like the rumors say because only someone with enough self-control can show their best performance. And thinks as to when did Wu Chen make Su Chingy love him to such an extent. Su Chingy asks Rabing as to what is she thinking and tells her to keep massaging. Wu Chen tells Su Chingy to stop massaging him and not to forget to take her medicine. She tells him that she will go downstairs to get the medicine. As she leaves the room, Rabing thinks Su Chingy is sick in the head. With everything going out on her head, she asks whether Wu Chen plans to explain everything or not. Wu Chen tells her to give him $1 billion to know the truth. Rabing tells him not to be so sarcastic as she is too lazy to even ask how they fell in love and whether the Su family is investigating him because of his relationship with Su Chingy. Wu Chen tells her that they weren't investigating him but the problem is that Su Chingy ran away from the home with him. Rabing asks about what is he going to do and whether he is going to marry into the Su family to which Wu Chen asks whether she thinks he is the kind of man who would marry into a family. Rabing asks whether he would break up and even if he does the Su family won't let him off easily. Wu Chen tells her why to break up when they can handle the Su family which makes Rabing very curious and she tells him not to forget that he is currently her boyfriend. Wu Chen tells her that's exactly why he said they can deal with the current situation and she asks whether he means that the Su family doesn't know about his relationship with Liir Ruat and she can only choose to help him out. Wu Chen praises her telling her she is really smart and she asks that since everyone is on the same boat, why did she run away? Wu Chen tells that she had been living like a puppet for over 20 years and she wants to live her own life now and whether it is too much for him to help Su Chingy. He gets a call from Su Chingy telling him that she saw her family near his house and what should they do. Wu Chen tells her that it's no problem and they will come downstairs right away and not to worry as they will handle it easily. Wu Chen tells Rabing that the Su family has come looking for them and they must go downstairs. Rabing asks whether he called her to his house because he knew the Su family would be coming by that time. Wu Chen indirectly agrees to it making Liir Ruat uncomfortable with the situation. Wu Chen asks her about it and she tells him that she understands what he is saying but she feels that he is manipulating and disregarding other people's feelings in this manner. Wu Chen clarifies it by telling her not to be so harsh on words with him and that it was just a coincidence that both the Su family and she were there at the same time and it's nothing related to him manipulating things. Rabing tells that she doesn't blame him and it is just that she doesn't like this kind of feeling. He tells that her words sound as if she is acting like a spoiled child and grabs her hand telling her that they have to present themselves as a united in front of them first and they should go. Wu Chen and Liir Ruat are downstairs and the bodyguards tell her that Wu Chen is the one they are looking for and then ask him about the whereabouts of Su Chingy, telling him to hand over her to them. Liir Ruat acts furious at them asking whether they are from the Su family and asks whether they are there to find and cause trouble for her. The bodyguards try to explain that she misunderstood them and they are not there to find her but they are looking for Wu Chen who has kidnapped their young lady. Rabing defends Wu Chen stating why would her man dare to kidnap any other women, which makes the other guard nervous to answer, and we see Su Chingy yelling at the guards as to who said that she was kidnapped. The bodyguards try to tell her that it was not them but her mom, but she tells them to stop using her mother's name to cause trouble and it is not their business regarding the problem between her and her mother. Su Chingy's mother comes out of the car telling her not to be so ridiculous. Liir Ruat greets her and that she is still so radiant and beautiful, and Madame Su also greets Liir Ruat. We see Madame Su shaking hands with Wu Chen and praises him saying, Wu Chen is indeed talented and impressive as rumored, and Missley has really good taste. Rabing tells that Madame Su is too kind for the compliments. Madame Su tells them that it is not the right place to talk and they should move to a different place to have a proper conversation. Rabing approves of the idea and tells Madame Su that even she has things to discuss with her. Madame Su gives a stern glare to Su Chingy, making her scared as she hides behind Wu Chen to avoid eye contact with her mother. Everyone is in the Su family industry's Jin Fu tea house. Madame Su asks Rabing about her presence with her daughter. She tells that it is very impolite of her to take away her daughter from her without any notice, even if it was her boyfriend who did it. She threatens that Wu Chen's behavior violates the law and that perhaps she should consult her lawyer in that case. Rabing tells that originally it was she who would meet with her daughter Su Chingy, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, she had to ask her boyfriend to meet her instead. Madame Su questions why did Wu Chen forcibly take her daughter away. Rabing calmly tells her that her daughter is already 27 years old and she cannot be forced to go with Wu Chen without being able to reject the offer. She questions whether Madame Su does and isn't curious about the reason for their meeting. Madame Su asks for an explanation and we see Liir Ruat getting up from her seat confronting Madame Su that Chang Ying is not like a living person anymore and is just like a carefully crafted puppet who cannot even decide on how many bowls of rice to eat. She tells that this is the reason why Su Chingy envied as well as desired to become a woman like her. Madame Su was very shocked at what Liir Ruat told her about just now. Rabing continues telling that Su Chingy always wanted to meet her to get some help but she couldn't help her. She grabs a packet with something inside asking Madame Su whether she knows about it. She informs that she had been taking this medicine and her daughter had brought it for her. Madame Su is startled, confirming it and telling that it is no big deal. Rabing on the other hand explains that the point is not about the medicine but that the simple act of buying a medicine would bring happiness to her daughter. She tells that Su Chingy has never bought medicine by herself before and that for her to go out alone and buy medicine is something novel and exciting at the same time even at the age of 27. She seeks Madame Su's attention to see whether something is wrong with her daughter or not. Su Chingy, with sweat rolling down her face, lowers her head accepting the situation. Wu Chen is proud of Rabing for her splendid performance as well as her logical ability. She asks whether Madame Su doesn't understand the situation as her daughter is extremely upset. As for today, she and Wu Chen were present when she wanted to go and buy medicine. But, what about the next time when there will be no one around her and whether she is not concerned about her daughter? The whole room fell into silence for 3 minutes. Madame Su asks whether Missley is seeking appreciation, to which Rabing denies, telling that Su Chingy is her friend. Wu Chen yet again praising Rabing thinks to wrap up the situation and so starts to add fuel to the fire. He calls out Madame Su telling that he and Rabing had been working hard for the entire day just like that and even they are tired of it. This makes Rabing question herself as to why is Wu Chen getting so angry and draws to the conclusion that Wu Chen wants to speed up things, so she tries to play along, putting up a show together, telling Wu Chen what is he doing and he doesn't have to say that since Su Chingy is her friend. Wu Chen raises his voice asking whether she hasn't had enough yet, that even after helping Miss Su out of concern that Miss Su might do something reckless and worrying that Miss Su might get in trouble, and what is she getting in return? They are blaming her instead of appreciating her and he feels very sad for her. Rabing tries to calm down Wu Chen by patting him gently on his chest. She murmurs not to argue since Su Chingy is her friend and not to get upset like a lovey-dovey couple. Su Qing on the other hand is terrified with their acting skills, thinking that even she would have fallen for it if she wasn't aware of it. This also makes Madame Su question whether she should really thank her or not, and then tells her that she understands her good intentions. She also tells her daughter that as a mother she didn't mean any harm to her, and from now on, she will consider allowing her to do something on her own. She also tells that she is fortunate that she was able to make friends like Missley. Even Rabing praises Quang Ying for comforting Madame Su and tells them that she is getting late and won't disturb them anymore. In a gentle tone, she comforts her daughter, advising her to not work up too much with the pressure put on by her. She tells Su Qing that she can stay and enjoy her day and can come back to the company's meeting the next day, and she will head back first. Everyone takes a sigh of relief as Madame Su takes a leave and the main door is closed. Wu Chen labels it as a mission accomplished as the first stage of their plan ends there. Rabing looks at Madame Su leaving, telling Su Qing that her mother didn't leave any bodyguards or insiders behind to monitor them. Su Qing instantly grabs Wu Chen out of joy, asking whether he was really angry as he looked very fierce, to which Wu Chen denies, telling her that he was just acting. Rabing is jealous and requests them to stop it for the time being. Wu Chen tells them that it was time for business and whom should he call first. Rabing is all worried as she brawls over Wu Chen, grabbing his hand and telling him not to mess around. Wu Chen asks her whether he said that he was going to cause trouble. Rabing tells him to stop playing around, and since everything is fine now, Madame Su is unlikely to pursue anything against them anymore, as he can continue meeting Su Qing in the future, and asks what more does he wish. Wu Chen asks Su Quangying whether she wants to continue meeting each other secretly like a love affair or not, since he doesn't like it that way. He tells that if she follows him, then he has the obligations and means to relieve her of her difficult situation and not let her be forced to choose between love and family, making her blush. He puts his hand around her, telling her to come and listen to him as he has to make a few calls. He tells her that he will contact other people and that he wants her to take over the power of the Su family and become the CEO of the Jin Fu Club in the shortest time possible. After this, she will have the final say not only in the company but also at home, which will prevent her mother from controlling her in the future, as her mother will understand that she cannot control a powerful person like her. And her father will be even more proud and pleased with her. He asks her if she is willing to do the same, to which she agrees after some thought. He appreciates her willingness and searches for a contact, and then starts the plan by calling the contact on his phone. Wu Chen is sitting on a sofa dialing a number with Rabing and Su Qing standing beside him. Rabing sits down close to Wu Chen, which makes Su Qing jealous seeing them so close to each other. She also wants to be close to Wu Chen, so she goes and grabs his arm with her arm like a cute couple. Wu Chen asks Su Qing as to whether she is tired, and if she wants to listen to the call, he can put it on the speaker. The call is connected and the person asks about who called him. Wu Chen asks whether he had any nightmares recently and did he dreamt about the Nanhe warehouse and that Bei Kefeng had requested to ask about it. He questions whether it is true that he has made quite a bit of money in recent years, which makes the person yell at him, asking who the is he. Wu Chen tells to meet him 1 hour later at the Qing Yuan tea house's private room. Rabing questions Wu Chen if he can really take over the Su family with just those 2 sentences he spoke earlier. Wu Chen asks whether she didn't get it and gives her a hint that it's internal disintegration, meaning breaking down from within. Rabing tells him to reconsider it a little more. Wu Chen sarcastically replies her whether she wants to make a bet again, to which she declines and tells them to depart. 1 hour later we see them arriving at the place, and Wu Chen instructs them to stay there and have tea as he will go to the room first. Wu Chen enters the room and seeing the person already arrived compliments him on being very punctual. The old man gets up and shuts the door and asks him whether it was he who spoke to him earlier over the phone. This person is Yao Honglin, the director and shareholder of the Jin Fu Group, and holds 3.8% of the shares. Wu Chen agrees that it was he who spoke over the phone, which makes Yao Honglin is furious as he demands to know where Bei Kefeng is and questions him about how much Bei Kefeng paid him as a bribe and what he wants. He yells at Wu Chen, telling that he cannot threaten him just because he knows a little bit about his affairs. He adds that if Wu Chen is so smart, then he should reveal Bei Kefeng's whereabouts and he will give him a huge sum of money that Wu Chen would never be able to spend in his entire life. Wu Chen, sipping tea from the cup, tells that they can talk about the money later and that he is truly someone who kills and sets fire. He admits that Mr. Yao is really bold and daring. Mr. Yao tells Wu Chen to do whatever he wants but not to make unfounded accusations about him. Wu Chen with a smirk inquires about the money buried in the barren hill and tells that with the advancement in technology, the unsolvable cases previously can be easily solved now, and what does he think about it? Wu Chen has clearly hit the pain point of Mr. Yao, making him anxious and asking if he is there to extort money from him. And if this is the case, he will give him 150 million and tries to shut up Wu Chen's mouth by bribing him. Wu Chen advises Mr. Yao not to be impatient and tells him that he has heard that the boss's business has been bad recently and he had to rely on falsifying accounts to cover the losses. He asks about the name of his little mistress who helped him with it. Mr. Yao is completely terrified and tells him to stop and tells him that he will pay him 2 billion. He changes it to 3 billion and will split it in installments and tells that Wu Chen won't get anything more. Just then, we see Su Chingy barge into the room as she calls out to Mr. Yao, making him completely stunned for a moment. He tries to calm down Su Chingy but couldn't utter a single word. Wu Chen places his hand over Mr. Yao's shoulder and asks him why did he come over to the room so quickly, and Mr. Yao asks if they heard everything. Su Chingy questions Mr. Yao about whether he really killed people and set fire to them. This makes Mr. Yao startled and we can see him sweating from fear and stammering and speaking a few words. Wu Chen calms down the situation by pouring tea into the cup, telling her not to talk about the past for the time being. He tells Mr. Yao that he will be straightforward and doesn't need his money, which makes Mr. Yao even more frightened, thinking about whether he wants to take his life, if not his money. Wu Chen tells him that from now, all he has to do is to support whatever Su Chingy says in the board meetings. Mr. Yao asks whether it is that simple of a deal, to which Wu Chen affirms. Mr. Yao gets relieved and jokingly tells Su Chingy that he thought that someone was going to kill him and it scared him a bit. He said that she can directly tell him if there is a small matter like this, and how could he not comply with her words since it is not necessary to trouble her and Wu Chen. He breathes a sigh of relief since he knows that Su Chingy is the only successor of the family, and no matter what happens to the Su family, she will eventually become the chairman of the group. So if they want to use him for their benefit, they won't sell him out, which will not only resolve the crisis but will also make him huge profits, and thank them, assuring them that from now on he is with them in all their decisions and would always look up to her as his leader. Wu Chen tells that a gentleman's word is good as his bond, so Mr. Yao can leave, making Mr. Yao happily leave. Rabing is unsatisfied, questioning Wu Chen if this is all he got, since even if Mr. Yao supports her, there will be no use in getting one vote from a single director, as there are more than a dozen of directors on the Jinfu board and not everyone will fall for his threats. Wu Chen asks her if she is trying to get him to say something. Rabing in a serious mode tells him that she isn't joking with him and what he did was blackmailing, and it can be very serious if things go wrong. And there are over 10 directors on the board, so how can he solely rely to deal with them by blackmailing them? Wu Chen tells her that he doesn't need to deal with all of them since some of them will be enough. Su Chingy is all excited, asking him about how many people they have to threaten, and he tells them that there are 5 more left and she can continue drinking her tea while she waits for him. Su Chingy gets concerned, telling him not to work too much and tire himself. Next, we see if a horde of board members, the chief managing officer, the chief financial officer, the legal supervisor, the institutional shareholder, and the independent director all blackmail to vouch for Su Chingy from then on. After all this is finished, we see Wu Chen taking a leave, telling them to take care. Rabing yet again questions Wu Chen that he hasn't reached 2/3 of the seats on the board and not even half of the board with 6 directors. So, how would he control the whole board? Wu Chen says that some things are complicated to explain and she should wait for the results the next day. Su Chingy grabs him, telling whatever her husband said is correct and that she will listen to him. Wu Chen tells that there are still some things that need to be explained to Su Chingy. So, he asks Rabing whether it is okay for them to stay at her place for the night. Rabing, having no choice, agrees to his stay, and we see them all walking by towards the house. We see Rabing telling Su Chingy to go and take a shower first as she grabs Wu Chen to the balcony, telling him to stop talking. Grabbing him by both her hands over his shoulder, she demands him for a kiss. Wu Chen and Liir Ruat are having an intimate moment in some weird position. Wu Chen thinks that this cannot be true since Su Chingy is gone to take a shower and will come out soon. So no matter what, Rabing will never pick this moment and thinks that if this is the case, then Rabing is just acting. He soon realizes that Rabing is looking for a paparazzi and so makes her all worked up for it, as we see Rabing in a high thirst for something special. We see a paparazzi filming them with a camera in his hand, so Wu Chen decides to play along, making sure that Ding Rualong gets even more offended. A couple of minutes later, Wu Chen tells her that the paparazzi should have gone by now, making her realize why he was so relaxed, and since it's getting late, she tells him to rest easy. Meanwhile, we are shown the scene of South Guang City in the Rui Long Company's head office, where Ding Ruolong is really agitated by Liir Ruat's recent scene on the balcony as he watches all the videos the paparazzi has taken. He is fuming in rage to take revenge against Wu Chen as he swears to kill Wu Chen. Ding Ruolong calls his subordinate Zhang Chuan, who was one of Ding Ruolong's most trusted subordinates and an ex-special force. He orders Zhang Chuan to go to East China and find this guy named Wu Chen showing a photo in his hand and orders him to will Wu Chen with as worse as he can do it. We see it's actually the complete information of Wu Chen. Seeing that the East China Sea is Liir Ruat's territory and requested 5 days to finish the work. Ruolong is already frustrated and says that he cannot wait for that long and gives him 3 days to listen to the news of Wu Chen's death. Zhang Chuan is in stress over it obeying Ding Ruolong's order. The next day we see Wu Chen and Su Chingy sleeping together and Wu Chen tells Su Chingy to wake up. She tells that she hasn't had enough sleep, but Wu Chen tells her to get more sleep after she finishes her work for the day. He also asks her whether she remembers the things he taught her the day before and she agrees, nodding her head, as the current day's success or failure will decide her life's fate. We see Rabing in a stunning maroon dress entering their room telling Su Chingy to get up and she will give her ride to the company. Su Chingy gets all ready and we see the employees informing her about the paperwork and other work they carried out. She tells them that she will discuss everything after the meeting and that she has to go to the conference room for the meeting as she bids farewell to Rabing. She then proceeds towards the office building, ordering the subordinates to come in with her. It's 10 a.m. in the Jinfu company and we see an executive meeting taking place. Madame Su is very furious with Su Chingy as we see there is some disagreement between them regarding the decision of firing 2 employees, namely, Zhou De and Yang Kwa. Su Chingy also tells her that if they disagree then she will call the board of directors, which makes Madame Su even more enraged. Su Chingy tells her mother that she is the executive vice president of the company and as a member of the board of directors, she has all the rights to call for a board meeting. Acting all up, Su Chingy tells that in fact she is the executive vice president and so she doesn't require any resolution from the board to lay off an employee from the security department and the deputy director. She tells her assistant to notify the human resources department about it once the meeting is over. Madame Su slams her hand on the table asking what wrong did those 2 employees do that she is firing them for no reason at all and that it's the company's fault that the incident caused labor issues, and if the news spreads, it will have a huge impact on the reputation of the company and they cannot afford these consequences. We get a flashback of the previous day when Wu Chen gave a pen drive with proof regarding the 2 employees she wants to fire, as those employees have done something very serious. Su Chingy steps up with confidence as she tells Madame Su that she has a reason to fire them from their job. She explains that 5 years ago in the morning, there was a major robbery at the company's store in East China's Commercial Street. It was the largest store of the company in the country with the best decoration and surveillance systems as well as the highest level of security. Switching on the projector with the remote, she shows the chart of the company's share price, telling that since such a store was robbed, the outside world started questioning their security capabilities along with the decision-making board, which caused the stock price to drop for many years, and so the company's value fell to 40 billion. So, it's common sense that Zhou De, who is the director of the security department, needs to take responsibility for it. But for her, it doesn't matter whether Zhou takes responsibility for the incident or not, as they must let the outside world know that the company is determined to reform on security-related issues. She tells the board that only by firing the director of the security department, Mr. Zhou De, can the company pull back the stock prices, making everyone think that she has changed a lot from before. Madame Su allows her to fire the security department chief but questions Yang Kwa and whether she will also going to shift the blame to his head. Su Chingy tells her that she shouldn't blame Yang Kwa, who doesn't even work for the company anymore. This makes Madame Su confused, making Su Chingy inform her that Yang Kwa was only working for the company in name, as he was just her personal bodyguard. This makes Madame Su realize that it doesn't matter who is controlling whom and that it is not the main topic, but that Su Chingy is trying to rebel against her. So she tells to call the board of directors meeting and immediately notify the company's board for a meeting being held at 3 o'clock in the afternoon the same day. On the other side, in the symphony fashion, Rabing is questioning Wu Chen as to why did he visit the company, and since the Su family is going to be turned upside down, isn't he going to do anything? Wu Chen reminds her that he has done everything and they have to just wait for how Su Chingy performs, and he just wants to draw for the time being. Rabing is looking gorgeous, making her curious, asking about what is he drawing. Wu Chen with his damn wrist says that he is drawing her. Wu Chen thinks that the photos Ding Ruolong's men took the previous day would be done with their investigation, and since they would be preparing to make a move, it's time for him to do something. We see Rabing questioning him again about the same thing, and he tells it is nothing but just a sketch for her that he wants to draw. Rabing tells him that she cannot be a model for him as she is busy with her work and doesn't have time for it. Wu Chen tells her to carry on with her work and he will do his work and she can pretend that he is not there. He scrolls through a WhatsApp group chat which mainly focuses on sketches, and there is a person in the group who needs to draw in order to complete their tasks. There is also a person in the group who has a close relationship with Ding Ruolong. As she completes the outline of the sketch, he texts that teacher Xingchen is very strict, making others question his legitimacy and sketching skills. So, he clicks the sketch of Liir Ruat which he completed a few moments ago, and posted it in the group mentioning he was casually drawing it. 40 minutes later, everyone is shocked and in awe of his sketching skills as they praise him for his work trying to contact him in the group chat, and we see multiple private messages from them for Wu Chen. Wu Chen is still waiting for the person to message him about the trap he had set up. He soon gets a private message from a woman that she has a daughter in junior high school and her daughter has been studying art for 3 years now, and requested whether he can give her some guidance, making Wu Chen excited as he catches the fish he set the trap for. We get to know that she is Ding Ruolong's senior high school sister who holds the most special position among all of Ding Ruolong's women. The reason why her position is so special is because Xing Ruolong had an illegitimate daughter together with her who is now 14 years old. Wu Chen replies by telling her that she is being too modest and whether he can evaluate her daughter's artwork first. He praises her daughter's artwork skills, telling that her daughter draws well and is much better than the children in the group who just joined, and she is really a talent. She says that getting affirmation from a top expert indeed gives her confidence that her child truly has the talent. Replying to Wu Chen, she tells that it's great to hear coming from him and asks him what he does for a living and whether he is in Shanghai. It's even easier than Wu Chen had thought. He questions her about why she asks about it. She explains that he is more skilled than the teachers she had met before and would like to invite him to be his daughter's tutor. Accommodation won't be a problem for him, and she will also pay him 2,000 yuan for each tutoring session. He tells her that she is being too polite and indeed her child has great talent, but asks for her proposal and then leaves midway. She asks him whether he has any concerns, and everything is easy to discuss and to refuse her offer. Wu Chen cunningly tells her that since they have had this fortunate encounter, they can discuss the details in a while. She tells him to feel free to contact her whenever he has time and that she will be waiting for his message over the next 24 hours. Wu Chen's plan is going on smoothing, and it's time for him to make that woman all his so that she will come to Donghai and be completely under his control, as she is an important key to the black material that could incriminate Ding Ruolong. He gets up from his seat requesting Rabing to continue with her work, and he needs to leave as he also has something to do. The women and her daughter are just a part of Wu Chen's plan, and there is a lot more to come. Wu Chen dials someone who asks him about Wu Chen's identity. Wu Chen replies that obviously, he is looking for him who is a double agent, and what does he think about death when Ding Ruolong finds out about his mission. The person on the call denies it, saying that Wu Chen is speaking nonsense, and asks who he is, telling that he has no idea about who he is talking about. Wu Chen asks since he is not admitting, then Wu Chen should go and find Liir Ruat about it, making the person plead with Wu Chen to stop and asks him to talk things out. Wu Chen tells him to do as he says, and he will meet him around 3 p.m. the current afternoon, and he will send the address later, to which the person agrees immediately. It's 3 p.m. in the Jin Fu group, where everyone is present at the meeting of the board of directors, as Madame Su orders to close the door and tells them to begin with the meeting. The board meeting begins as Su Chingy begins informing them about the agenda of the emergency board meeting. She tells that originally it was just a small matter, but since they have convened a board meeting, so everyone is free to voice their opinion on this matter. She tells them to provide a logical reason for their disagreement rather than opposing just for the sake of opposition regarding the matter. This takes everyone aback, as it was an open warning to everyone present in the meeting. Yao Honglin thinks himself fortunate enough to know about the situation in advance, otherwise it would have been difficult to adapt to someone like her all of a sudden. Madame Su takes the lead, appreciating her that she really impressed her today, but it is not feasible to do so regarding the matter. Zhou De has been with the company for over 10 years, working his way up from factory security manager to main office supervisor, as he has always performed his duties with diligence and professionalism, as he never made any mistakes. So, if they let him go just like this, it would also discomfort the other veteran employees who have been serving the company for so long. Everyone agrees with Madame Su's remarks as it makes sense. Madame Su thinks that it is good as Su Chingy has not contradicted her statements and the tide of the board has shifted towards her side, so she continues saying that in the morning, Su Chingy had said to let Zhou De resign on his own and compensate him privately, but he has the right to refuse. If they forcibly dismiss him, it might lead to arbitration and media attention by their competitors, which might lead to fluctuations in the stock price. All the board members talk about agreeing with Madame Su as there is indeed a risk. Su Chingy is fixated on the matter, telling that it's futile to argue like this as they will not get to any substantial opinion, so they should vote directly, and tells everyone to raise their hand who was in support of her proposal. This makes Madame Su very angry, questioning how dare she try to ask for voting, but is stunned by Yao Honlin as he raises his hand in support of Su Chingy. Soon other members of the board start to raise their hands in support of Su Chingy. This comes as a major blow as all the important people stood in support of Su Chingy. She is furious at Chen Lei as she didn't care about others, but she had made Chen Lei join the company as a financial clerk after graduation from the university, and it was she who promoted her step by step to her current position, feeling betrayed by her. Su Chingy tells her mother to stop influencing the votes in such as way and tells everyone to continue voting. Wu Chen had told her already that not everyone needs to speak up actively and some fence-sitters only need to see her attitude and the display of her firmness and power and they will automatically follow the trend to support her. Su Chingy thinks that she needs to be even more forceful in her words to grab their support, so she firmly asks about who else supports her. This makes Tang Diang, the elder of the group and Madame Su's most trusted and closest brother, vote for Su Chingy. Madame Su cannot digest that even her brother has voted in Su Chingy's favor. Tang Diang tells her that Kuang Ying has grown up and even she can see how she has become. Madame Su fumes in rage as she slams the table with both her hands, getting up, labeling it as nonsense. She tells that they have only 9 votes and not the majority votes yet, and she wants to see who else dares to make trouble for her. We get to know that the board resolution requires 2/3 of the majority votes for major issues, while a simple majority vote is sufficient for ordinary resolutions. Since the meeting was held for a minor issue, Su Chingy needs one more vote for the win. Su Chingy now deploys her tactic, slamming her hand on the table and drawing everyone's attention in the meeting towards her. Since Wu Chen had previously said her that the key is not about controlling the board of directors but about making her mother give up, so the final step is whether she can achieve a decisive victory or not. Su Chingy knows that it's time to enter into the final step of her plan and questions her mother whether she is sure she wants to go on with the voting. Madame Su tells her that she is going to do it the same way and she isn't afraid of anything, and since she is her mother, she can still control her. Su Chingy tells that she may not vote in her favor as she is the chairman's wife and so everyone listens to her. But she cautions her mother that it is not in her own interest and for the Su family's and the company's best interest, and tells that she hopes that Madame Su will think through the matter clearly and what exactly she is trying to do. Questioning her, Su Chingy asks how long she intends to become a laughingstock in front of others as a family. Madame Su is stuck in the realization that if she doesn't let Kuang Ying's proposal get approved, there will be huge internal conflicts within the Su family from then on, and even the board of directors will split into 2 fractions, which will result in an internal strife in the company and thus leading to poor business performance. The company stocks will fall even more as Su Chingy will have no hope to succeed the company, which will ultimately result in the bankruptcy and collapse of the company. This makes Madame Su realize her stance as she walks out of the meeting, slamming the door shut close as she cannot accept her defeat. Su Chingy takes the lead, questioning the rest of the directors present in the meeting on who else wants to support her and who else wants to oppose her. Everyone present in the board meeting agrees with Kuang Ying's decision, raising their hand in support of approving Kuang Ying's resolution, and so, she adjourns the meeting. From this moment on, both the Su family and the Jin Fu group have completely changed as Kuang Ying has indirectly taken over the decision-making of the group. We are then shown Lu Guanyin calling Wu Chen, asking Wu Chen to spare some time and if they can have lunch together. Wu Chen asks him if something is going on with him while driving the car. Lu Guanyin, referring to Wu Chen as his brother, tells that Wu Chen really likes to talk straight to the point. And so, he indeed has some matter where he requires Wu Chen's help. Wu Chen knows that it is still too early for the meeting with the double agent, so he agrees to come over to his place to discuss the matter. It is the Yufu residence in the western part of the city where we see a luxurious villa. Lu Guanyin is very happy at Wu Chen's arrival. Lu Guanyin shows the fight marks he got on his head, making Wu Chen joke about how did his first love turn out. Lu Guanyin holds Wu Chen's arm, telling that he is not at all joking as his first wife threw a teacup at him and kicked him out of the house. He requests Wu Chen to help him with a way to make his first wife accept him. Wu Chen tells Boss Lu not to rush as such trivial matters can only be resolved gradually, consoling him that things would be fine and advises him to take a seat for the time being. Boss Lu was very desperate, unable to wait any longer, telling that Wu Chen knows his situation about his son and how can he be away from his own blood. Pouring tea into the cup, he asks about the method Boss Lu tried. He tells that when he went to find his first wife, he bought a bouquet, a diamond ring, and a necklace as he bent down on one knee to propose to her. He even got a Ferrari for his son, but she walked away. Wu Chen tells Boss Lu that he shouldn't give her the impression of using money to win her over, since she managed to overcome all the impossible situations back when he had left her all on her own. It is not possible for her to return to Boss Lu just because he is offering her money. These things that he is doing will only be seen as insults and disgust in her eyes. Lu Guanyian's first wife was very angry at him as she slammed the door on his face and told him that she would move out of the house if he ever came over to knock at their door. She even threatened that they would move abroad so that he won't be able to disturb her anymore. This is all that had happened, and Lu Guanyin now understands why she acted this way. So, he asks Wu Chen if he has any solution. Wu Chen agrees that he has a solution but mentions that there are two options. The first one is to start with his son, which would take some time, and eventually his wife, Ma Huifang, would forgive him. The second way can resolve his problem quickly, the same day, and tells him to choose one. The desperate Lu Guanyin chooses the second option and asks Wu Chen for his suggestion. Wu Chen, however, cautions him that the first method, even though is fast, but a bit risky. But Boss Lu interrupts him, telling him not to worry about the money as he can transfer the money right now as he transfers the money on his phone. But, Wu Chen tells him that not everything is about money but about having the courage to face a lot of hardship. Lu Guanyin tells that he isn't afraid of enduring hardship, and Wu Chen just needs to tell him what to do and he will do it immediately. Wu Chen tells him that if he can be ruthless and set aside his pride, then they can do it, and explains him the entire plan. The plan is in action as Lu Guanyin is standing in front of the door and is being monitored by Wu Chen from the monitoring room in Zhouwan Garden residential area in the Jingjing Road of the Mancheng district. Everything from here on is on Lu Guanyian's hands as he knocks on the door asking if Xiao Fang is in the house. She is angry as she tells that she is not home, she is dead, and not to come there again. He requests her to please open the door first and wanted to speak. But, suddenly Ma Huifang opened the door and yells at him, asking what is he still doing there and how long is he going to keep up with his acts. Ultimately telling him to get out of the building. Lu Guanyin shows up with a taco roll in his hand, which he had brought for both of them as they used to eat this food when they were together and didn't have enough money. Ma Huifang is in no mood to listen to all of it as she throws the packet from his hand, telling him to get lost from there and that she doesn't want anything from him. Lu Guanyin has no option left, so he bends down to the floor to pick up the food he had brought, but just then, his son arrives. Ma Jiawei, who is his real son, tells Lu Guanyin to quickly leave their place, but Ma Huifang tells her son to go inside the house as it is none of his business. Lu Guanyin tries to calm her down and asks her not to be angry in front of him, and we see this struggle going on for half an hour more. Two security guards arrive towards them, telling that they were watching them for the past half an hour through the surveillance cameras and accuse them of disturbing their neighbors as they have received a lot of complaints. The guards tell Lu Guanyian's wife to argue as much as she wants within the house and not to disturb the neighbors. She questions him as to who said that they are related, as she doesn't know Lu Guanyin and that Lu Guanyin is harassing her, so she requests them to help her quickly get rid of him. The guards grab Lu Guanyian's arm, telling him whether he didn't hear what she said and to stop causing trouble for them. Lu Guanyin, on the other hand, is too adamant about not leaving his wife and tells them to let go of his arm. The guards get angry at him as he yells at them, but he tells them to get lost as it is none of their business to meddle in when an old couple is arguing. Since he not only insulted the guards and also tried to get a bit physical, they start landing hooks and punches on Lu Guanyin to teach him a lesson. Lu Guanyin could barely stand up to survive any more beating from the guards, but he still provokes them that he won't leave without his wife and child, as his life would have no meaning without them. So, they can go ahead and even kill him, but he isn't going to leave. Wu Chen is watching the entire drama from the surveillance room as he gets annoyed with their sentimental acting, but also knows that his performance is actually quite detailed. And if he is not wrong, then he is expecting the drama to end soon. Just then, his son, Ma Jiawei, comes out of the house and tells the guards not to hit his dad, and we see his wife also supporting the same from the back. The guards are in no mood of stopping, which makes his son even angrier as he rushes towards beating up the guards, but his mother yells at all of them, telling them that it's enough and to stop hitting him. She lends him her hand and tells him to get up, which makes Lu Gonian out of words. On the other hand, we see Wu Chen praising the guards for acting so realistically and tells them to wrap it up as they almost got beaten up by Mr. Liu, and the outcome was exactly what he had anticipated. The guards tell him that if the couple has any more arguments, he can reach out to them for an even more realistic performance, as now they have much more experience. Wu Chen knows that he doesn't need to be involved in their matters that follow up, as brother Liu would be able to handle all on his own, and it is time to take care of the real business. It is afternoon when Wu Chen gets a call from the double agent while driving the car, because it is already 3:30 and wants to know where Wu Chen is and whether he is playing tricks on him. Wu Chen gives him a cold shoulder as he is clearly at an advantage, which makes the double agent realize it. So he talks gently as he doesn't want to argue with Wu Chen and just asks him to come to meet him. Wu Chen arrives at the place and we get to know it is the Shudao Cafe in the Dengqing district. Wu Chen apologizes to keep him waiting for so long, waving his hand towards him. The double agent slams his hand on the table as he seems very furious with the double agent. This concludes the latest chapter, and we will be continuing it from here in the next episode.